Morning. I will now call to order the Lane County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, June 25th. Welcome to everyone here in Harris Hall. We have more folks than we've had in a while because we have a special employee recognition at the top of the agenda. Before we get to that, I just want to note for folks, we have a sort of unusual agenda in terms of timing with a number of time certain items, a budget hearing, but we also do have some folks signed up for public comment, and we did make a note on the agenda that might be delayed. I'll do my best if we have some lag time between items to fit a few folks in so we don't keep you waiting, but I appreciate everyone's patience and understanding if we do need to bump the public comment a bit later this morning. I also want to note Commissioner Buck is joining us online remotely this morning, and we do have one quick adjustment to the agenda in this afternoon where Health and Human Services item 10A has been split into two items, and we'll just cover that more when we get to that item this afternoon. And so if there are no other adjustments to the agenda, seeing none, any emergency business this morning from our administrator, well then we will move into the moment you've all been waiting for, and I will turn it over to our administrator, Steve Mokrzycki, for this employee recognition item.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Trieger, Vice Chair Lovell, Commissioners, and to all of our guests, good morning. We're pleased today to kick off the board meeting with a recognition of our District Attorney, Patty Perlow, who spent 34 years in the Lane County District Attorney's office. We asked Patty, as she had her planned retirement here coming, we'd like to do a recognition. She said no party, didn't want anything. We said, well, can we recognize you in front of the board? She said yes. That was her mistake. We do. She can't do anything now. All these people are here, and we have a few folks that are going to speak and take us down a little bit of memory lane, and we'll try to do this quickly because we know that the board has a lot of items to take care of today, but really wanted to recognize Patty for her incredible tenure as our district attorney and in the district attorney's office. She started on January 31st, 1990 as the deputy district attorney. As a deputy district attorney. As a trial lawyer, she handled a full spectrum of criminal cases, including homicides, child abuse, and personal and property crimes. She's been a trial team leader, mentoring a team of lawyers. In 2009, she was promoted to chief deputy district attorney, and in August 2015, she was appointed district attorney by Governor Brown and won election in 2016 and re-election in 2020. I've had the privilege of working with Patty over the last 9 years in her role as district attorney. I think anyone who's worked with Patty appreciates her blunt honesty. You never have to worry about Patty saying something bad about you or anything about you behind your back, because she's going to say it right to your face. I've always appreciated that she is upfront and direct, humble in her work, cares deeply about the people that she works alongside of, as well as the people that we serve in the community, and particularly keeping our residents safe from violent and predatory offenses. So we have a few folks who are going to speak here, and I want to first, just to help illustrate the difference that Patty has made in our community, I want to first welcome Judge Kip Leonard. Judge Leonard was the judge that Patty was clerking for when she was first recruited to the DA's office. Judge Leonard.
Thank you. Don't need that. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the time. I'm the person that started all this, I guess. In 1989, I was appointed to the circuit court. Judge Spencer had retired, and in the fall of '89, I took over coroner chambers and a clerk. I hadn't had a law clerk before when I was a district judge, and Patty was the law clerk. And I soon realized that not only did I get a corner office, but I got the best law clerk in the building. And it was great. And all the lawyers who came to court, everybody recognized that Patty was just a star. And so it was going to be a great year. And I was happy, and I thought Patty was happy. The stories kind of diverge here. As Patty will tell it, I kicked her to the curb. As I tell it, Doug Harkleroad, the DA, came to me and said, "Hey, everybody realizes Patty Perlow is great. Can I hire her?" And I didn't really want her to leave, but I knew that there were better things for her to do than to sort files and to wait on me. And so I said, "Yeah, you go ahead." And so Patty went to, as was just mentioned, Patty went to the DA's office in January 1, 1990, and demonstrated then what we all knew, and that Patty was a wonderful lawyer for any number of reasons. She appeared in front of me in court countless times, and we were always impressed by her preparation, by the respect that she showed the institutions, the respect she showed other attorneys. But most importantly about Patty was that she had a commitment. And I think it was hard for Patty to leave working for me because of the commitment she had to having accepted this job for a year. But Patty's commitment was not only to the office of being a deputy district attorney, but her commitment was to the duty of a prosecutor. And some people don't realize that for prosecutors, there is a commitment and an ethical consideration above and beyond what applies to all attorneys. And that is, your number one ethical responsibility is to see to it that justice is done. And that is a difficult standard to live by, because you take slings and arrows all the time. Every decision you make, and especially when you are the person in the office, you take criticism, you take thanks, but you have a responsibility not only to the victims of crimes and to the communities, but you have a responsibility to those people who are charged with crimes and to the agencies that bring those cases to you. And Patty has never, ever failed in that commitment. And so she's become a good friend over the years. Well, she became a good friend in 1989, and I'm so happy for her, and I'm so happy that the community had the opportunity to have her as the DA. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Next, I'd like to introduce to you all someone who's familiar, our former District Attorney, Alex Gardner.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I know Patty is nervous right now because there are so many Patty stories for me to share. I thought I would start out by channeling Doug Harkleroad and calling her a quitter. When I thought about that, I realized that she's actually served in this role longer than I did, so I can't very well say that. Instead, I'm just going to focus on expressing my gratitude and highlighting how great it was to work with Patty. And so I agree with everything Judge Leonard said. I want to add that Patty has a great sense of humor. We are not great at recognizing accomplishment in the DA's office. It's sort of been a suck it up and get the job done kind of environment forever. And Patty would annually, on her anniversary date, announce to the office that she was awarding herself a ceremonial ballpoint pen. She would have a ceremony in the library where she would award herself one of these in gratitude for her service. So today I brought one to give her. I also brought an Oregon State Police Challenge coin, which is a little bit more sincere expression of my gratitude. So Patty was my chief deputy, and she did an exceptional job of balancing me and straightening me out when I needed straightening. When it came time for me to leave, we had a lot of talks about whether she would want to become the elected DA, which I'll say that being the elected DA is a tremendous honor. You get to do important work. You get to work with fantastic people. But it's not a great gig. It really isn't. You're never off duty. You get calls all the time, even when you're on vacation. And when Patty took the job, it was a $1,200 or $1,400 a month net pay cut. So people do that because they want to serve and they want to make a difference. And Patty has done that. And I'm very grateful for her service. I'm very grateful for her friendship. And Chris Perosa has mighty big shoes to fill.
Thank you, Alex. And next, I'd like to invite Sheriff Cliff Harold.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, and Patty and family. Listening to Alex talk about the talk he had with Patty when she was the chief and whether she really wanted to be an elected official or not wasn't helpful to me. It's very, very important for the good of a community to have a district attorney's office that is focused on the correct priorities. And I am so thankful during my tenure as a law enforcement officer in Lane County, we've had a DA's office that has done that, and absolutely under DA Perlow at the helm. She is and has always been an ardent advocate of programs like our treatment courts here in Lane County, as well as programs like the 416 program to reduce recidivism for property crime offenders. And at the same time, she has never wavered from fervent dedication to support of crime victims in our community and our state, and fulfilling her role as their advocate. I'm thankful for her service to our community and for her role model in leading the office. Patty does hard things when they're the right things to do, and we need that in our leaders. On a much more personal note, the experience of starting in an office at the lowest, newest, bottom of the seniority list, line level individual, working in that same office over the span of your entire career, working to the point of finding yourself transitioning into the role of a countywide elected official, campaigning for office, and being charged with leading that same office, making that transition to an elected official can be an interesting adventure. And Patty went through that adventure ahead of me, and my wife Becky and I have so very much appreciated Patty and her supportive husband Dan Perlow as we made that transition. Honestly, it took us into some places that were super foreign to us previously in life, and as we headed to those places, we knew we could count on seeing Dan and Patty there and enjoying their company. And so we are very thankful for that and for their friendship. And so as a symbol of that, I have a quick presentation for both Patty and Dan. For Patty, we're presenting her with a Sheriff's Appreciation Award with gratitude for dedication and service to Lane County Sheriff's Office and the community. And then in the tradition of law enforcement adopted from the tradition of our military, I do have a Sheriff's Challenge coin for both Patty and for Dan for his support of her throughout her career.
Thank you, Sheriff. And now we have Bob Lane. Bob is a senior prosecutor of 37 years in the District Attorney's Office who's worked with Patty the longest.
Members of the Commission, so I've served under 4 DAs, and I just want to tell you that Patty was the right person for the right time in history for being the Lane County District Attorney. The things when I started out were a lot different than they are today in all kinds of ways. And when Patty was first, I don't know if she was appointed or she was elected, there was an article that came out that said, quoted somebody saying something to the effect of, "Do not underestimate her, you do so at your own risk." And the years as district attorney have been, I have to say, fantastic. I hope that she feels that I've had her back and that our management team's had her back the whole time, because she's had ours. When I did my exit interview with the county, the lady was asking me a question, something to the effect of whether I had any complaints about the county, you guys, the county, as opposed to the DA's office. And I said no. I have to say, I think the look on her face was shocked after so many years. But the credit for that goes to Patty, because when things happen in our office, we can go to her, and she just takes care of it. And if we make a mistake, you've made a mistake, fine, move on, get past it. People kind of forget, so far anyway, that the 2020, I'll say, 2020, 2021, when we went through COVID, something none of us ever experienced. Our office pretty much shut down for a while. And where other places were not going to conduct business for quite some time, Patty came out and said, no, we aren't. We got stuff to do. We've got victims of crime. We got people who are dangerous out there, and we need to do something. And we were back in the office, June 15th or something like that. And to her credit, the prosecutors and the staff were back in the office. There were some complaints, sure, always is, but everybody was back there to do their job. And the first person back every morning was Patty. And people in the DA's office, we need a leader. And for the last, 9 years or so, that's been Patty. And I'm very thankful for that time. It's been not just bearable, but enjoyable to work these last few years. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And our final speaker is David Perlow, Patty's son.
I'd like to start saying I never really got any information at what exactly I was speaking at, so I'll apologize in advance. But my name's David. I'm Patty's son. I can tell you I'm not really sure why I was asked to speak here because almost none of this will have anything to do with her career. I can start by saying I'm a little bit selfish. So a little bit about myself. I have a strong tendency to reference things out of TV or movies, maybe music lyrics. Most of it goes over people's heads, and it's led to plenty of eye rolls or blank faces, and I can confidently say that my mother is to blame for that. She likes to say that she was raised on television. She'll brag about how she was first hired in the Lane County DA's office because during her interview she said her favorite show was Cheers. She'll also tell you that Mary Richards is her hero, or how during law school she'd often spend time discussing the legal procedure of Arnie Becker from LA Law. While I was growing up, she'd often quote other sources, though. She'd often quote the great philosopher Jagger, telling me, you can't always get what you want. I spent time in the sheriff's office, I interned in the U.S. Attorney's office, and I worked in the DA's office, and I don't know how many times I've been asked what was it like growing up with a DA or a prosecutor for a mom. And I've always had the same answer, I don't really know, she was just mom. I had a general concept of what she did, putting bad guys in jail, going back to preschool. But again, I'm the wrong person to speak at this thing because I can't speak to all of her accomplishments. And frankly, she might have done too good of a job at hiding the gritty details because it led to me putting in my 5th grade yearbook that I was going to be a prosecutor when I grew up. I could tell you she was the first woman district attorney of Lane County. She had to go through and frankly dominate 2 contested elections. She helped establish and grow the drug, mental health, and veterans treatment courts. She headed the trial team, worked on major crimes teams and the narcotics teams. She's also served on the executive board of Kids First and the Relief Nursery to help children that are far less fortunate than both of hers. And honestly, most of those facts I just stole from the county website. I do have one personal anecdote, though, from my time working over in District Attorney's office in Eastern Oregon. There was a defense attorney that came up and said to me that he used to work in the Lane County DA's office, and he said my mom was a hero of his. I had to just answer honestly and say, same here. He later said in an email to me that he was, quote, kicking himself in the ass for leaving her office. It was quite the negotiation strategy. In my very subjective opinion, more important than anything she did as an attorney is what she did as a mom. I can tell you that she came to all of myself and my sister's swim meets, and there were a lot of them. She ran the coach's hospitality, ran the timing system, and became an official. Those jobs don't really mean anything to anyone else here, but I can tell you having to spend your weekend at a swim meet, let alone having to work there, is a thankless and remarkably boring job. She would drop us off for practice and pick us up at ungodly hours. She was there for all the highs and lows. So as great of a prosecutor and district attorney as she might have been, I was fortunate enough to never see how tough the job was for her and how hard she worked. Thank you.
Well, now you know why we invited all of those folks to speak, and David, that was exactly, I think, what we all wanted to hear about Patty. These recognitions, and Patty didn't know that we had planned all of this. She wouldn't have agreed to it.
Yeah.
But frankly, these recognitions are less about making the person we're celebrating feel good and more about our need, all of us here and those who aren't here, our need to recognize the contributions and the value that you've had to our community and to all of our lives. And so it's about us, Patty. So we have a recognition that we're going to present here to Patty and then invite you if you have some words that you'd like to share. Yes, you want a rebuttal? This isn't a debate, okay? We're not in court. We have this plaque for Patty, and this is, if you all can see it here, it's a recognition, a thank you for your service and dedication to the people of Lane County. It includes Lane County's 3 core behavior coins. We have, for those of you that aren't aware, we have these 3 core behaviors in Lane County that we find essential to the work that we do in creating a culture of leadership, and they are a passion to serve, a drive to connect, and a focus on solutions. And Patty, you've exemplified these core behaviors in your 34 years of service, so please come up here.
So I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. It turns out when somebody wants to have something put in the employee newsletter about a retirement, this is what happens. And that wasn't even me. But I want to recognize my family. Thank you very much for being here. My son David, you met, my husband Dan, my daughter Christine. They really have been the champions behind me and making my career here actually work. I do want to say to Judge Leonard that he did want Carl to be his clerk, and that's why he kicked me out of being his clerk and to go to the DA's office. And we will have the debate never ends. I know I'm right. And Bob Lane retired on May 31st after what's listed as 37 years here. If you look at his extra help time, he went into that terrible building for 42 years. And he has been the person that I have gone to whenever I had a question. Bob's the smartest person you're ever going to meet. He really has been the person behind my back, holding me, giving me that hand on my back when I needed help or advice or anything going through this. Angela, where are you? Angela did this to me, but Angela's retiring at the end of the week as well after spending more time in this job, which was her retirement job, than she did at any other job in her career. She was way too good for the position that she came into. Fortunately, Alex recognized that and had her promoted out of the executive assistant role until now she is a supervisor and a manager, and she has been a fantastic support to the DA's office, to the DA and to the community, and to all the other departments in the county. Angela has been fantastic, and I owe you a huge debt. She's the one who can get things done. When she said, "Do you want a crystal bridge?" I said, "I only want a crystal bridge if it says best DA ever on it." And you know what? I got a crystal bridge that says best DA ever. She first said that can't be done. Lo and behold, Angela can get it done. So I owe a huge debt of gratitude. Eric Hasselman is leaving after 30 years of public service at the end of the summer. Eric is a trial attorney like no other trial attorney. Unless you've seen him in the courtroom, you can't appreciate the quality of work of the lawyers of the Lane County DA's office. I mean, I see Joanne was here. She probably had to go to trial. I mean, these people are fantastic, and I appreciate the support that you have shown over the last 9 years that I've been DA. Well, you all weren't here for 9 years, but just the support, particularly in our time of turmoil and when the revolving door was just going, and that you all stepped up to help support me to make sure that this office, as I'm going out the door, is in just fantastic shape, and Chris Perosa is going to do a great job. He's going to step right in. Our transition, the governor said it's the gold standard of transitions because he's been real supportive of me, and I am so supportive of him as I go out the door. So thank you all for being here. Wow, hi. It's just seeing surprising faces in the audience, and thanks so much to Jay and Amy for making the trip here, because if I was going to suffer, you were going to suffer. And all of our law enforcement partners, everybody, thank you so much for your support, not just of me, but for the DA's office and the mission that we serve for this community. Anyway, 2 minutes early. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, commissioners. And so the final thing that we'd like to do is Patty recognized a number of folks, and in those she recognized Angela Pershing, and Angela is also retiring this week. Now this would, we had to keep this absolutely top secret because Angela, I hope she's still sitting there. She didn't walk out. Is she still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tried.
Yeah, she's trying to. She can't. No, she can't. What's really important is not only to recognize the people like Patty who have given the time and the level of leadership that she's given, but there's always people behind the people that don't get recognized. And Angela's one of those people. You heard this from Patty, and so I just want to share a few things, and we have a recognition here for Angela. No one knew about this, any of it, because they wouldn't have come. The two of them. So Angela's retiring after 18 years. She has worked and trained 3 district attorneys. She started in 2006 as an executive assistant to then DA Doug Harkleroad. She served as a management analyst for then District Attorney Alex Gardner, and she was promoted to Manager of Support Services by DA Perlow in 2019. And I can't say any better than what Patty already said, but the reason we really want to recognize Angela is because of all the work that Patty talked about that Angela does behind the scenes to help make Patty and the DA's office so successful. So for Angela, we have a recognition for you in your 18 years of service.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, so much. I'm sure board members, some all might want to make a comment. I don't want to be the buzz killer in the room, but we do have quite a lot of business and some time certains and some outside guests. So I would like to invite board members to make comments that are brief, and knowing all of us, we know how how to reach you in the next few days anyway, if we want to follow up and say more. And so just with that caveat in mind, and also while I have the mic, before I turn it over to the board, just asking for all of your support of us to continue our business, that when we do finally conclude this item, that you exit the room as quietly as possible so we can keep rolling through our agenda. Thank you. And with that, I'll open it up to the board for brief comments. Commissioner Senega.
Yes, well, I appreciate that because today is about you, Patty. DA Pearl till the 28th, I believe. My only regret is we didn't get to work with each other longer, but I will always take the time we had on the PSCC with me because I learned a lot by watching you chair that. One of them that you get away with amazingly, Mr. Moker-Heisky brought up earlier, is your no gray area. And if you're thinking it, you're going to say it because there's probably other people in the room that are thinking it too. So I really do appreciate that, and I know you've left us in very capable hands, so thank you for that.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the one that talks the fastest, so I'll get the most information. And Patty, you met me when I was still campaigning. I don't know how you spared the time, but you did, and it was important to you to impart some of your knowledge and your wisdom with me, and I just want to thank you for that particular moment that we had in downtown Springfield. But I want to also hit with David what you said. You said something that really resonated with me about who you are as a person, Patty. You said, I'm going to remember most what she did as a mom. And I think that's your most important role of your life. Leadership is about organizing the priorities. Judge said that your priority was to get people that needed to go to jail, bad guys get prosecuted. But leadership truly is when you answer your God-given gifts, and you answered that to a T. And the hardest part about answering God-given gifts is you say yes, and you don't know where it's going to lead, and you fight it to the end because you know it's the right thing to do. And David, what you said, I'm going to resonate back with you. The right thing and the hardest thing is always the same, and you did it with elegance, grace, honor, and courage. And that quote came from the band The Fray.
Oh, Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I too just want to give my thanks to DA Perlow and Angela. Congratulations to you both. DA Perlow, I know that you have been dedicated for so many years to Lane County and to its residents, and I can't thank you enough for that. I think it's apropos that when we're recognizing you, you turn around and recognize everybody else in the room. And that's just the way that you are, and I appreciate that. I know it's had to have been challenging to be the first female in your role, breaking barriers. But that's so significant in your work and in your line of work in particular. It is generally a male-dominated role, and you've done a fantastic job. And I looked to that when I began commissioner, and how you navigated that role. That really struck a chord for me, and I know it most likely did for many, many other women in your industry and people that worked for you. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I've written down a few quotes that people say things far more eloquently than I could ever say about you and your work, Patty. I'm going to get to yours last, David. But the first one I want to mention is that as a great, I hope she always felt I had her back because she always had mine. That was you, Bob. And to me, that's really symbolizes the way Patty Perlow ran that office. She always had everybody's back. You have always had everybody's back. And I'll cite an example. You followed in the great tradition of DAs that I hope Chris follows in. In 2013, DA Alex Gardner came up to my office, knocked on my door and said, I closed the door to your car. Then later in 2015, you came up to my office, knocked on the door, and said, I closed the door to your car. Chris, the onus is on you. I'll leave it open one time, especially for you. I look forward to lots of years of association with you, Patty. Your son said, David said, apart from you being raised on television, this is what actually brought a tear to my eye. She said, more important than anything she did as an attorney is what she did as a mom. As great a DA as she's been, she is a mom first. You show that in your work, Patty. You care for the people that you serve, you care for the people that you work with, and you care for the people you prosecute. Across the board, you don't spare anything, Patty, and that's just the way you have served in that office. That's the way I believe you'll continue to serve the rest of your retirement, and I look forward, Chris, to our work together and continuing the wonderful tradition that began with Doug, continue with Alex, Patty, and now you, Chris. So, bravo, thank you.
Thank you all. I'll just conclude by acknowledging, as Commissioner Buck did, the real importance of being a trailblazing woman in a role that is not typically held by women, and particularly as a countywide elected, other than our assessor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had any other countywide elected women in Lane County besides yourself and our current assessor. So that is significant. And the mention that Mary Richards was a role model for you ties it all together. Me too. Thank you so much for your service. Clearly, as full as this room is a testimony to the service that you've given to this community and the way you've given that service, that it makes people want to come and honor you and show you respect and appreciation. So thank you so much, and enjoy the years ahead. We really appreciate you. Thank you. So after all of that fun, we get back to the business before us. And again, thank you to members of the public who signed up. We may be able to fit in some public comment in between our time certains. The first is a public hearing on budget adoptions, supplemental number 4. Tanya, is there anyone signed up online to give testimony on the budget specifically? There's no one here in Harris Hall.
If you are online and would like to give public comment for supplemental budget number 4, please raise your virtual hand.
And I'm really just getting a time check on that. We will take the comment.
Okay, there are people signed up, but I don't have any hands raised for this item in particular.
Okay, great, thank you. Then with that, we will have a summary from the staff on this supplemental. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chair Trieger and Commissioners. So this is the 4th supplemental budget for fiscal year 23-24. The 23-24 budget was originally approved by the board in June of 2023, with the first supplemental budget in September 23, the second approved in December of 23, and the third approved in April of 24. So this is the last supplemental budget for this year. So a lot of what you'll see are those adjustments that are kind of the last chance to change things before we know them. And so anywhere where, we have known changes in revenue, expenditures, places where capital projects won't be occurring this year but will be moved into next year, we'll decrease budgets for, increase for things the opposite that are going to happen before the end of the year so that we prevent the budget violation of exceeding appropriations. Most of the project-related budgets that are moving are related to capital planning and public works projects. So you'll see a significant amount of decrease there for projects that are going to be happening in next year. There's also a significant increase in resources that's from a transfer in and the general fund related to that establishing the sub-fund for the prior American Rescue Plan funds. There were 6.5 FTE decreased. Those were planned decreases from Health and Human Services, just related to the ongoing decrease in some one-time funding. That's it.
Great, thank you. Then at this time, I will open the public hearing. This is a public hearing on a supplemental budget for the current fiscal year budget as allowed under ORS 294.471 and ORS 294.473. This public hearing is required under ORS 294.473 due to one or more funds amending expenditures by more than 10% from current budgeted amounts. Notice of this hearing and summary of the changes was published as detailed in the supplemental budget order and resolution included with this agenda item. Participants may testify for or against any item contained in the supplemental budget. And with that, I'll open the public hearing and confirm, Tanya, no one online who wishes to speak to the budget supplemental?
Let me ask one more time. If you are online and would like to give public comment for the supplemental 4 budget, please raise your virtual hand. And I do not see anyone raising their virtual hand, so not for this item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I'll confirm, is there anyone in Harris Hall wishing specifically to speak to the budget supplemental? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask if there are any additional comments from staff.
I do have one additional thing to note. There is an interfund loan from the general fund to Health and Human Services. That did go before the Finance and Audit Committee at their last meeting to recommend to move forward to here. That is a cash flow timing related loan that they anticipate that they may or may not need depending on when revenue comes in.
Great, thank you for that. Then I will open it up to the board for any questions for staff, discussion, or a motion. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. Question regarding the last item. Was that the one that was discussed in Finance and Audit this week, the same item?
It is.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair.
I'm ready for a motion, Chair. I move to approve the order resolution adopting the fiscal year 23-24 supplemental budget number 4, making, reducing, and transferring appropriations per board order 24-06-25-10.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Seneca. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye or a raised hand.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Approval of order and resolution 24-06-25-01 in the matter of adopting the fiscal year 23-24 supplemental budget number 4, making, reducing, and transferring appropriations. Thank you. We do now have, moving on to item 4B, another order before us adopting the 24-25 budget with appropriations and attendant taxes, and I'll turn it over to Christine Moody to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair Trieger, Board of Commissioners. So as mentioned, adopting our 24-25 budget, which begins on July 1st. The board has already been involved in this budget process at many stages along the way. Departments began their budget prep in January. Budget Committee approved the budget in May. We had the hearing with you on the approved budget on June 11th. And then departments have submitted to you additional changes. There's an attachment to the memo that shows you the changes, either new information, changes in revenue estimates, delay of projects in the current year being moved to the next year, being changed in the approved budget to eventually come to the adopted budget amounts. Some changes in FTE. The one that I do want to point out to the board is the opioid funding, which came to you as a work session, and we provided some information about the areas we were looking at allocating some of the first monies from that settlement. This adopted budget does contain 3 areas being funded. They are the Sheriff's Office, the Medicated Assistant Treatment Program, which had a grant that was going to expire in September, so we risked losing that program. In parole and probation, there are several parole officers who work with that substance abuse areas that will provide support to the community and the mental health. And then an epidemiologist position in H&HS, which had lost its funding and was at risk as well. So those are the first areas. That is by no means the bulk of the settlement funds. You will hear from staff in the future as additional recommendations come to you. But I wanted to point that out as being included in the adopted budget. As we mentioned, the county administrator would make those recommendations to you. That's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. To the board for any questions for staff, comments, or a motion. Commissioner Farr.
No questions, just to mention that your staff is predominantly sitting among you here, and without you all, this wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't get to this point, and I see you working diligently before the sun comes up and after the sun goes down quite often. So I just want to, Ms. Moody, I want to pass that appreciation along to your entire professional staff. Thank you.
Which, by the way, these days is a long time. It's like the
Sun up to sundown.
Yeah, sun up to sundown. Yeah. I have a motion, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll take that.
I move approval adopting the 24-25 Lane County budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes per order number 24-06-25-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Senega. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye or a raised hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that. And I will just note for the public, since Ms. Moody mentioned there was some amendments, all items before the board can be found online by clicking the View Material link by each agenda item. And I will also note that we've been joined at the table. Our Assistant City Administrator, Greg Rickoff, is with us for the duration today and tomorrow, as Mr. Mokrzycki is out. With that, we do have a 10 a.m. time certain, but we do have some time to fit in some, if not all, of the public comment of folks who have signed up if they're in the room. I'll give an opportunity later in case people heard it would be maybe longer than this and left. So we'll just hop around a little bit with our public comment this morning. But with that, I will ask, is Charles Kimball in the room? He is. Then I will please I'll invite Charles Kimball to the podium, and he would be followed by Kurt Offenbacher. Is he in the room? Great. Then, Mr. Kimball, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, at which time your 3 minutes will begin. There's a clock on the wall to help you keep track. Good morning and welcome. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. As you said, I'm Charles Kimball, Board President for Emerald PUD here in Lane County. I'm sure you're all tired of seeing myself and other Emerald officials at these meetings, and we're tired of being here. And it's also a little humiliating that as a Lane County public agency that's been here for 40 years, that we have to come here and beg for our 3 minutes. And frankly, far too much of this process with the IMRF has been conducted in closed meetings and background negotiations. I speculate that sooner or later you're going to have to answer for that. In August of 22, Emerald, Northwest Natural Gas, and Lane County signed a memorandum of understanding that specifically addressed working together at Short Mountain to accomplish just the project that you're now looking at. In early 2023, we learned anecdotally that the county was working on a project like this away from Short Mountain that excluded EPUD. And when we asked county staff what's going on, we were told it's a pipe dream, it doesn't pencil out, nothing to see here. When the county board asked in public meetings in 2023, have we engaged all stakeholders, county staff enthusiastically said, yes, we have. I'm not sure what the term engagement means to this body, but we don't think it means telling people what you're going to do, whether they like it or not. Engagement means listening and responding. So you didn't forget to engage stakeholders, you didn't neglect to engage stakeholders, and you weren't in a rush and didn't have time, as your public works director told us recently. You very deliberately blocked EPUD and probably the garbage haulers as well from engaging in any meaningful way on this project. So here's my ask today, and I think Lane County citizens and certainly Emerald's ratepayers deserve an answer. Why?
Thank you. I'll invite Kurt Offenbacher, who will be followed by Janet Pelroy. Is Janet Pelroy in the room? Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Kurt Offenbacher, Emerald board member. I'd like to point out that if the IMRF facility is built as planned and the experiment works as advertised, which is doubtful, it will result in potentially the largest single negative financial impact to EPUD in our 40-year history. I am referring to the loss of the ability to generate $20 million of electric power over the next 20 years due to the reduction of methane at the Short Mountain landfill. EPUD last August turned down a $27 million offer from Northwest Natural Gas to purchase our rights to the gas. We turned it down as we want to continue producing low-cost, reliable electricity for our local customers. And we did that with the knowledge at that time that we would work with Lane County Solid Waste to design a facility at Short Mountain Landfill as stated in your climate action plan, and the MOU that Director Hurley signed. Little did we know that Lane County Solid Waste was working behind our backs to design a facility outside the landfill so they could intercept the gas to their benefit. I wonder how much, if any, the county will receive for the rights to the gas produced at the IMRF. If it's 20% of the landfill gas, then it should be worth at least $5 to $6 million, just for the rights. I don't know the answer, as the county has forged ahead negotiating with Bulk Handling System and Northwest Natural Gas behind closed doors and has continued to fail to heed EPUD's concerns. The winners in the current plan are Northwest Natural Gas, who can purchase RNG from Bulk Handling Systems, and mainly Bulk Handling Systems, who get free land, a free building, a $32 million state grant, the first $5 million of annual gas sales, the first $5 million of annual recyclable sales, and their product development subsidized by Lane County and EPUD ratepayers. Such a deal for a for-profit company. Not a good deal for a public consumer-owned utility or Lane County citizens. We again ask that Lane County step back and work with the major stakeholders to arrive at a facility that benefits us all. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Janet Pelroy is up next. Will be followed by Melinda Montgomery. Is Melinda Montgomery in the room? Thank you. Please state your name for the record and your time will begin. Good morning.
For the record, my name is Janet Pelroy. I'm the president of Ecosystems Transfer and Recycling. We are a family-owned and operated business here. We service the rural Lane County. My husband and I built this business working 24/7 for years to make it successful. And we cannot stand by and not voice our great concern about the future. We strongly oppose the proposal between Lane County and Bulk Handling Systems. There has been a total disrespect and disregard for the Lane County haulers. Facts and figures were provided, and you chose to not listen. Need I remind you, we, the haulers, the backbone of the waste management system, we are the backbone. You depend on us. Without the hauler support, this project will never be successful. The lack of transparency with the haulers and the public is unacceptable. We have notified our customers of the increased tipping fees and why we are having to raise prices, which is due to this risky, expensive, and unnecessary facility. Everyone is suffering with a high cost of living. Budgets are tight. We are very concerned with losing customers with the increased rates, which may result in job losses. Illegal dumping, which is already on the rise. With the cost of the project has increased from $65 million now to $155 million. Additional costs are adding up with consulting and rezoning the wetlands to allow building on the 26 acres. The biggest losers are the citizens who you are supposed to represent. Are you being fiscally responsible with our hard-earned money? Please open your ears, your hearts, and your minds, and really listen to our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Pardon me. I'll call Melinda Montgomery to the podium, and next would be Robert Weeks. Is Robert Weeks in the room? Thank you.
Okay, if I get interrupted because the timer doesn't work, I'm not listening. That happened to me before. It's very disconcerting. Anyway, just kidding. I'm Melinda Montgomery, and I'm from No Tie. So I'm here to voice my opposition to this dirty IMRF project. It is untried technology. It is costly, especially to rural constituents. And most of all, it is anti-business, which means anti-jobs. This project is going to replace jobs already out there provided by IP, provided by Rexius, and the like. The economy dictates that you are frugal. The commission doesn't need to be looking for more ways to be spending our money, especially when you don't even have enough money to fully patrol our county or to keep our parks open to the way they should be kept open. You have a viable situation with EPUD. You can spend a fraction of the amount needed for this boondoggle of a project to upgrade and expand. This would be the epitome of reduce, reuse, recycle. And while we're talking about reduce, reuse, recycle, what about this agreement with EPUD? You need to follow through with the things that you have already put in place. To not follow through with your agreement or to negate your agreement you already hold with EPUD. So what's the deal? You don't honor your agreements? I mean, that's just as bad as being a liar. And by not honoring your agreement, you are basically saying, screw you to me and my neighbors. You ask, how is that? Well, by negating the agreement, you will cause my electricity to increase. But guess what? You're going to screw us twice because our garbage rates are going to increase as well. So, and then, while you're trying to scrape every last quarter out of my pocket, you're going to come back and ask me for a bond to help pay for this project. So, just how much money do you think I have? Do you know what this looks like? It looks like someone is going to have some significant personal gain if this thing goes through. So, be smart, be prudent, use our money wisely, improve what is in existence, honor your agreements, and stop trying to fleece your county residents for the last dime. We don't have any more to give. And as Janet said, dumping is going to continue to happen. I live on 350 acres of timber. People can access my timber without seeing it, and they're going to dump their garbage. Low Pass residents just spent 8 hours 2 weekends ago cleaning up garbage that took all day to take to the transfer station. And they did that on their own volition because they weren't getting any help from the county to do that. So, you know, we're going to have more of that. So we're just going to have more garbage pile up. So if you're going to work, and then the last thing I want to say is thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up is Robert Weeks, who will be followed by David Eigel. I understand we have one person online. We have our time certain folks from Springfield. Are they with us in person or online? Can you folks wait a few minutes? We can conclude public comment. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Mr. Weeks, state your name for the record and your time will begin. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Robert Weeks. In 2031, EWEB plans decommissioning Leeburg plant, purchasing power required from BPA. There is a compelling case for retaining the Leeburg generating facility for energy security reasons, bolstering regional resistance to systemic attack or failure. Global tensions have escalated since EWEB made their decision. New types of warfare and disruption have arisen. Today, and increasingly, climate change is producing more impactful extreme weather events which can affect power supply. Most utilities in Oregon purchase their power from only BPA. Springfield's ice storm shockingly downed poles over large areas, exposing systemic fragility. The decision support package from EWEB was silent on power line reliability, stretched over many miles, reduction of generating points, or security. Leeburg Hydroelectric Dam was paid for with public money. If the hydroelectric plant is demolished, public money will be lost and additional significant costs incurred. No assets remain. Demolition brings significant cost for state, county, and taxpayer. Dam removal requires bridges and roads. Local traffic disruption will be extensive. EWEB's portrayed remaining license period did not include a 10-year extension, which FERC states they would probably allow. This changes economics presented to the EWEB commissioners. Not returning the canals to pre-existing conditions is central to the EWEB planning. Leaving the canals open will leave deep landscape scars and will not remove the many stream flows and water to the pre-canal courses or restore water to landowners. It doesn't consider Oregon state goals for wildlife or consider the safety of wildlife and people. The canal will need maintaining in perpetuity. EWEB estimates infill cost at $67 million, and maintenance will be expensive. EWEB decision-making excluded state or county interests and costs as part of the discussion. There was an expression of interest from SPD potentially interested in purchasing the dam and plant. EWEB dismissed this out of hand at a board meeting within 2 minutes. In conclusion, we urge a complete investigation be done, utilizing independent experts, considering all costs and facts, direct and indirect. Regional resilience may be enhanced. EWEB savings for option 4 may not be realistic if the expense of others and state goals are considered. A decommissioning pause for proper assessment with all stakeholders is recommended. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next, I'll call David Eigel to the podium.
David Eigel. As I've already presented, the UVO Dunn report used to dename Dunn Hall presents not only a false narrative, but relies on a document that is not authentic to falsely prove that Professor Dunn was a Eugene Exalted Cyclops. The only connection Dunn had with the Klan was that the Crooked Klan commission-driven salesman during the first year of the Klan chapter's existence lied to prospects, telling them that the prestigious Dunn was the head of their organization so as to obtain their $10 annual membership dues. The UVO President's Office falsely claims to have incontrovertible evidence that Dunn was the Exalted Cyclops, but refuses to state what this is. Please contact them. Commissioner Trieger emailed me that she didn't want to become involved with what the Lane County History Museum does because it is run by a 401k. She wants me to deal with them directly. There are some major problems here. Most of the funding comes from room taxes, that this is a government-funded operation. Most of the Lane County History Museum's visitors each year arrive during the county fair. The fair is coming in July. The public needs to be informed that the Racing to Change exhibit at the museum was loaded with misinformation. Over the last few years, the Lane County Historical Society elections have violated Oregon law by failing to allow the membership to be contacted. I have tried dealing with them. An intervention by the commission is needed. Thank you for your consideration.
Tanya, I understand. Thank you for your public comment. There is someone now signed up online wishing to.
Yes, thank you. Heather Redwine Walter, I have allowed you to speak. Would you like to be on camera?
I'm okay with not being on camera.
All right, then you may begin your public comment.
Okay, thank you. I strongly oppose the Short Mountain IMRF project. I'm a EPUD customer, and this project will raise our rates and for electricity and waste disposal. EPUD has been operating a power plant capturing the methane at the landfill for 30 years. We shouldn't change a good thing. And according to EPUD, the contract with Lane County for gas utilization rights is through 2042. I ask you to honor your agreements and be frugal with the public money. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your public comment. Chair, I'll return the meeting back to you as that is the last person online to give public comment.
Thank you, Tanya. That concludes public comment. I'm going to move us into item 4C, and thank you to our partners at the City of Springfield and to our Economic Development staff, Jenna Cusimano, for your patience so we could wrap up public comment. We will move into an item looking at the matter of an order and resolution supporting City of Springfield's Housing Diversity Tax Exemption Program, and I'll turn it over to Jenna for the item.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just 1 second here. It Good morning, Chair Trieger, Vice Chair Lovall, Commissioners. With me today, I have staff from the City of Springfield, Katie Carroll, Housing Analyst, and I believe online we also have Nathan Bell, who is the Finance Director. They are looking to the board for approval of a resolution in support of their Housing Diversity Tax Exemption Program. The City of Springfield's City Council adopted an ordinance in May to establish the Housing Diversity Tax Exemption Program and is now in need of support for at least 51% of the taxing district partners to implement the program. This program is enabled by state statute, which provides a property tax exemption on new multi-unit housing projects in an effort to incentivize further development of those multi-unit housing. You have likely heard reference to programs of this nature referred to as a MUPT, or a multi-unit property tax exemption. The board supported such programs previously from city partners with the City of Florence in January 2022, as well as the City of Cottage Grove in February of 2020. So I'll go ahead and turn it over now to Katie with the City of Springfield to provide further details on their program.
All right, thank you, Jenna. I assume this is on, right? Okay, great. So as Jenna mentioned, my name's Katie Carroll. I'm a housing analyst for the City of Springfield. Nathan Bell, our finance director, is available to help answer any questions that you may have. So here today to talk to you all about the Housing Diversity Tax Exemption, or HDTE, we're calling it for short. As Jenna mentioned, the reason that we're here is that in order for this tax exemption to apply to the full tax amount and not just the city share, the city does need support from other taxing districts to get to at least 51% of the levy. So before I dive into talking about the tax exemption, I just want to talk a little bit about what housing in Springfield looks like. So Springfield's last housing needs analysis was adopted in 2011. And a housing needs analysis looks at projected population growth and housing need in relation to a city's supply of residential land to build that housing for a 20-year period of time. So in Springfield's case, that was 2010 to 2030. That report estimated that the city would need 296 new units of housing approximately per year to meet the need. And while Springfield's done really well with housing development in the last couple of years in particular, overall, housing development has not kept pace with what we were estimated to need. And this is especially true when we look at multiple unit housing development. The housing needs analysis estimated that 40% of that new housing between 2010 and 2030 would need to be multiple unit. Subsequently, a report was conducted by Locus Responsible Real Estate Developers in 2018 for the city, and that report found that only one multiple unit housing project had been completed in Springfield from 2008 to 2018. That report recommended that the city adopt this Housing Diversity Tax Exemption, or MUPT, to help overcome barriers to development of that type of housing in Springfield. And then subsequently to that report, we have seen more multiple unit housing built in the last couple of years, about last 5 years, but it's still not keeping pace with what we were estimated to need. So this is just kind of one of the things that the city council is looking at to address housing needs in Springfield. Included in your packet is a copy of the Springfield Housing Strategy. There's a picture of it on the screen. And that's a list of all sorts of things that the city is undertaking to address housing need, including this tax exemption. Some of the other efforts the city has pursued include system development charge and land use fee waivers, the low-income rental housing property tax exemption, or LRPD as it's often known, and development code updates. And then on the back side of that handout, there's some more statistics about various housing challenges the city is facing, if you're interested. So as Jenna mentioned, this is a state-enabled property tax exemption program that cities can choose to adopt. It's one of several different housing-related ones to incentivize various types of housing. In addition to the 2 cities that the board supported this for recently, Florence and Cottage Grove, Eugene also has this tax exemption, and then there are several other cities across the state that have this. So this one in particular incentivizes new multiple unit housing in core areas and near transit. Under state law, this is not allowed to be used for transient accommodations, so no short-term rentals, hotels, or anything like that. So we're talking true housing stock. And then projects have to provide a public benefit, and that's kind of defined by the city. So I'll get into how Springfield looked at that. So first, why did Springfield pursue this? As I mentioned, obviously we, like many other cities in the county and across the state, are having challenges related to housing. Springfield in particular has a really low vacancy rate. As of the 2022 census, the rental vacancy rate was just 1.6%. A healthy rental vacancy rate is generally considered to be closer to 5%. So when there's not enough housing, obviously that drives up demand and prices, ultimately making it more unaffordable for people to move to or remain in the community. And we are seeing that in Springfield. Over 40% of Springfield's renters are cost burdened, which means that they pay over 30% of their income on housing costs. In addition to just not having enough housing units, Springfield also has a lack of diversity in the types of housing that we have. So as I mentioned before, that housing needs analysis said that we would need 40% of housing between 2010 and 2030 to be multiple unit. We really haven't seen the percentage of multiple unit housing grow over the last decade. As of the 2022 census, it represented about 16% of our housing units. So not having that variety, again, is a challenge for people trying to find housing at a price point that meets their needs, but also a size that meets their needs. So the main goals of this were increasing the overall supply and the diversity in housing, but the city acknowledges there's kind of this secondary benefit to this program as well, which is that it can make development more feasible and ultimately increase revenue for all of the taxing districts. So, as you all are probably very well aware, market conditions are really challenging for development right now. We've got high land costs, high construction costs, and high interest rates, and all that combines to make it really difficult for projects to make financial sense or to pencil. So by offering a tax exemption that lowers operating costs for projects for several years, hopefully we can see more of these projects make financial sense than would without the tax exemption. If a project doesn't get built, then ultimately taxing districts will never collect revenue on it. So this is just sort of a let's get it built now and then collect taxes after the exemption is up. So the city began working on this in 2017. It got paused and put on a back burner with COVID, the wildfires, all of the stuff that was going on in that period of time. But we picked it up again in earnest in late 2022. And this is an effort that's been supported by multiple departments, our community development department, our finance, and our economic development team, which I think really speaks to the variety of benefits that the city sees this having for our community. We did outreach during development first to other cities that were either working on developing this or have this program to understand how their programs work, lessons learned, and see how we might use that information in the Springfield context. We also talked to local developers to understand what they were looking for in a program. We heard a few themes out of that. Developers wanted to see certainty, efficiency, and flexibility, so we tried to keep those themes in mind as we worked on putting this together. And then we did reach out to staff at other taxing districts too, so that they would be aware and be able to start to make their boards aware that we would be coming to them. And then, of course, we had a public hearing as part of the adoption process. We did have public comment at that, and our council actually directed staff to make a couple of minor changes to the program in response to that. So we feel confident that we have tried to put together a program that will balance both the needs of the city and the community, as well as actually being useful for developers, so we can hopefully see this as a tool to move the needle on housing development. This is an application-based program, so there are several minimum criteria that someone would need to meet in order to qualify for this program. So the first is that they need to build at least 5 new units minimum. Springfield's really looking at this program for that denser apartment-style housing, and so the 5-unit minimum matches Springfield Development Code's definition of multiple unit housing. Projects also have to be located within an eligible program area. I'll show a map on the next slide of where those areas are. And then projects need to include public benefits. Springfield's offering 3 different ways that someone could meet that requirement. The first is a clear and objective criteria pathway. So we have several different categories of public benefits with minimum criteria. Those categories are shown on the table on the screen. If someone can meet those minimum criteria in 2 to 3 areas, they can satisfy the requirement that way. Alternatively, someone could pay a fee in lieu of including a public benefit in the project, which would represent 10% of the total tax exemption they would get. The city would then use those funds to complete ADA accessibility projects in public facilities, so projects like curb ramps, which we have an abundance of in the queue. And then the third option would be for someone to propose 1 or more public benefits that don't meet that clear and objective criteria that they'd like to include in a project. Those applications would be elevated to our city council for consideration to determine, is this a public benefit, and if so, is it sort of sufficient to warrant a tax exemption? Otherwise, staff would be reviewing applications. So these are the areas that the Springfield City Council decided to offer this program. Under state law, we need to be offering this in core areas or near transit. So all of these are within a 1/4 mile of transit, and they all allow multiple unit housing. And then I'll also point out there's some overlap with our urban renewal districts in Glenwood and downtown. So the scope of this tax exemption, it's a 10-year property tax exemption that starts at the completion of construction, and then on year 11, that asset would come onto the tax rolls in sort of perpetuity for as long as the building exists. It's not a full exemption of property taxes. What it covers are new residential improvements, new parking for residents. So if it was a mixed-use development and there was exclusive commercial parking, that would not be included in the tax exemption. And then it also includes new ground floor commercial space in a mixed-use building when that ground floor commercial space is determined to be a public benefit. What it doesn't include is land, any existing improvements, or any new non-residential improvements that I didn't mention. And again, it's only applying to the city share unless at least 51% of the levy signs on to support the program. And this is kind of common in Oregon property tax exemptions. So previously, the city came to the county about the low-income rental housing property tax exemption and got support for that. So it's kind of the same structure. Let's see. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's foregoing, the impact of it would be foregoing 10 years of some property taxes. Based on recent development trends in Springfield, we're anticipating potentially 1 to 2 projects per year might qualify for this, though that's really just an estimate based on recent development trends, which have been higher than several past years. A lot of what gets built is based on market forces that are well outside of the city's control. So our council, kind of recognizing that we don't fully know how this is going to play out, gave themselves the option to pause, cap, or end the program at any time. So should the city or another taxing district become concerned about the fiscal impact of this, there's an avenue for addressing that in the program. And I'm not going to get into it for the sake of time, but just wanted to put some information about how this has worked in Eugene. Since they've had this program for such a long time, we've really been able to see how it's played out and been pretty successful. All right, and then finally, talking to other taxing districts. So as I mentioned earlier, our staff started reaching out to staff at other taxing districts about a year ago last summer to let them know that the city was working on this and getting closer to considering adoption. That led to us giving a couple of presentations prior to adoption, and now we're on this more formal tour of going around and talking to other taxing districts. So far, the Eugene and Springfield school districts have both adopted resolutions in support of the program. The Willamette board heard a presentation on updates to this program since they had kind of heard pre-adoption in June. And I believe in the packet I said that we were going back in July, but we're actually still working on a date with their staff to bring this back. And then obviously here at the county today, And then for the smaller taxing districts, the Lane Community College, the Education Service District, and the Soil and Water Conservation District, we did not hear back from staff in that initial round of outreach, and so we ended up sending letters requesting support to their boards, and subsequently have heard from Lane Community College, so are firming up plans, but tentatively scheduled to go speak with their board next week. And with that, I think that's all I had, so I'll turn it back over for any questions, comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the board? Commissioner Farr.
I'll allow Commissioner Lovell to go last, but, I'm really in favor of the work you're doing in Springfield on this particular project. The alarming thing, the fact is between, was it 2008 and 2018, one multiple unit development in Springfield? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Springfield is interesting. A lot of it has to do with that we can't command the rents that would allow for development of that denser housing. It's been a big challenge.
Which I think those times are changing somewhat. I beg pardon. Oh, thank you. I've been told. I know you can hear me, but I speak very softly quite often. So then in comparison to that, since 2018, the City of Eugene reports 8 multiple unit projects that have started based on their MUPT. And that doesn't include all of the projects you see around the University of Oregon, the high-rise projects, because those are already tax exempt. And the one of the positives of this is that after 10 years, these properties do go onto the tax rolls in perpetuity, whereas the U of O's projects probably never will. So, this is a good program. Everybody benefits from this ultimately. We have some upfront costs to pay based on our participation and other smaller taxing districts' participation, but the ultimate benefit is fantastic, and you get more places for people to live. We know this. We know we're already, in Lane County, we're falling behind by 1,200 units per year, compounded on an annual basis, and we have been doing so by, I think it was Jumis Casamana that gave us this information a few weeks ago, and it's based on research and data. We need to address that. Springfield's helping. This will help, and I'm fully in favor of our participation in helping out with this. Great presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Senega.
Yeah, this is great, and one of the many directions we need to go to address our housing concerns. I was trying to find what would you consider a healthy vacancy rate?
So healthy rental vacancy rate, different people say different things, but I think the kind of common figure people arrive at is 5%. And I think that is what the state in its new methodology of housing need, I think that's the number they're looking at is 5%.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, and we're even seeing that at the city too, where we're having a hard time sometimes filling positions because people are having a hard time finding a place to live in the community.
Yeah, yes, you are correct. Workforce housing is a whole nother issue and concern. Yeah, completely on board. I love this idea. Well, yeah, I'll leave it at there for now. Thank you. Good job.
Commissioner Buck, did you want to weigh in? The screen is small, so I can't see you as clearly.
Yeah, I can't see anybody. I'll just say I'm supportive. I don't have any pressing questions. We've done this for other cities, including, as you mentioned, in some of my districts like Cottage Grove. Understand all the aspects of it, and so I don't have any concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
You want to go ahead?
I have a question. Pardon me. Can you just explain how you mentioned some of these eligible areas overlay with the urban development?
Urban renewal.
Urban renewal zone. Can you just talk a little bit more about how the interplay of those two exempt areas work?
So, to my understanding, and if Nathan's online and I'm saying anything wrong, he can jump in because he works a lot more in the urban renewal districts. But so the urban renewal district, we're gathering, the extra tax increment. So we just would not be collecting it from these projects. But I think that staff and our council recognize that we're having such challenges to housing that it's really worth making that investment And, it's not putting us ahead in the urban renewal district now, but once those projects come online, there'll be a benefit to it. And Commissioner Lovell may also have.
The timeline would be the same, the period of exemption.
Yeah.
But could somebody, in theory, if they're already getting an exemption because they're, or a benefit, tax benefit because they're part of urban renewal, and then they layer this on top, they're extending the length of time that they're receiving a benefit? Or
It's not necessarily the
prorated?
length of time. So something that the city offers is it's currently paying system development charges for projects in the urban renewal district. So one requirement that we have for getting this tax exemption in addition to that is that a developer would need to be building something that's at least 4 stories upon completion, because we're really not seeing that level of density yet in even our downtown. So we're really trying to recognize that by offering multiple benefits, we want to see kind of a higher level of project there.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm definitely in support of this project. I love it, and you're right. We need to generate more revenue and more building in downtown Springfield. As a developer, the things that we do particularly is lower scale and not a public benefit. So this is something that, in my scope of work, we probably not qualify for, but other people would. Like you said, 4 stories. That's a big ticket item in today's financial world, especially with the banking industry pulling back. Even as early as this a few months ago, they pulled back the reins a little harder. But I love what you're doing. I love the support of this. In an abundance of caution, though, I'm going to abstain my vote from this, even though you have my support, just because the optics are I'm a developer in downtown Springfield, and so I don't want that to get out into the public's purview in that regard. But anything we can do further to help motivate Springfield to build more houses and put some more workforce housing on, I'm all on board. So thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Comments from staff?
I will just say housing is a big priority for economic development. We do want to cite new employers here, and we need to have the housing to support those employers. So really appreciate whatever the board can do in support of these efforts.
Thank you. And with that, I will look to see if someone would like to make the motion. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Trigger. I would like to move Resolution 2406-2503 in the matter of an order and resolution in support of the City of Springfield's Housing Diversity Tax Exemption Program.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Farr and seconded by Commissioner Senega. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? It passes 4-1 with Vice Chair Lovell abstaining. Order and Resolution 24-06-25-03 in the matter of an order and resolution in support of the City of Springfield's Housing Diversity Tax Exemption Program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much.
Great. Right. We have had public comment, but we have not had a chance yet for any commissioner response or other issues or remonstrance, so we'll move to that item, which is item 6 on our agenda, to the board. Commissioner Farr.
Only briefly, we do have an executive session tomorrow, I believe, that is going to be considering some of the issues that were discussed in public comment today, and I have nothing to say about public comment regarding that today, but I will say something that I always say on Tuesday. Look out the back window. Farmers Market is in operation today. Local fresh produce. It's almost the end of Oregon fresh strawberry season. Better grab some while they're there.
Thank you. Commissioner Senega.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you guys for coming out for public comment, and thanks for sticking around so we could get rid of some of that the business that we were here to take care of. I will say it was interesting. We're on 2 separate projects or topics. Mr. Weiss was bringing up the Leeburg Dam and the concerns with BPA's power, and then we have EPUD board members here speaking about resiliency and power, and they really are. There is a correlation between the two, because the fact is BPA's power grid is being taxed almost to its limit currently. They're already talking about rolling brownouts in the next 5 years, which is a concern that hasn't been fully addressed yet. I think part of that gets to we are lacking some transparency on this project. I fully believe that. I've said that since day one that I've been involved in this project, that we have not done the public outreach that I think we should on a project of this size. So thanks for coming out. I appreciate it, and we are listening.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would echo Commissioner Sanaga's comments about the particular IMERF project. And again, we're going to be addressing that tomorrow and in coming days. I think the process is kind of a rocky one, but I think it's working through the system well. I think Mr. Offenbacher and Mr. Kimball, you bring up some really good questions. I think your question to why continually needs to be answered, and I'm committed to answering those questions on not only your behalf, but your ratepayers and my own constituents of Springfield has a great concern about this project. As for the haulers, I want to just say, Janet, thank you for coming out and giving your word. I don't think the public knows, but 70% of the flow of trash and debris comes from private haulers in Lane County. So I think someone who has that big of a stake in the system needs a voice at the table. So thank you for reminding us of that. And Mr. Weeks, I think you made a great presentation on the UWeb Dam. He's not here right now, but I think the questions scratching my head are some of the same ones that he brought up, and I think those are important questions to answer. And again, David Eigel, your commitment to the truth and the historical accuracy never ceases to amaze me. Stick with it. Your perseverance is inspiring, and we'll do all we can to help with that. So thank you much.
Commissioner Buck, did you wish to weigh in this morning? No, thank you. Okay. I will just add, I think people might have noticed for a moment, Jeff Condit popped on. He is with the Office of our Interim County Counsel and is here to assist us today throughout our items, and particularly will be with us during our executive session conversations and some other items before us today and tomorrow. So just folks are wondering who that was that popped on for a moment. And also, so the board knows, we do have support from our Interim Office of County Counsel standing by if there are questions. Just let me know and we'll ask them to chime in. I will just respond in two ways. Again, Mr. Eigel comes and gives his testimony and leaves, so I don't know if he watches later, but just to clarify the record, that he said he approached me and I said that the Historical Society is a 401k. They're actually a 501c3, which means they're a private nonprofit governed by their own board of directors. He mentioned that he feels we have an obligation to intervene with their operations and delivery of their mission because they receive transient lodging tax, and I maintain that it would be our concern if they were misusing those funds or using those funds in a way that is not compliant, and not that we get to weigh in on their delivery of their mission and their operations outside of that. So I maintain my position that he needs to take his concerns up with the organization that he has the complaint with, which is a private nonprofit with their own governing board of directors, not the Board of County Commissioners. As for the IMERF project, I think there's just a lot of misinformation, disinformation, confusion, lack of understanding about the interplay between the existing energy capture project and the initiative that we are implementing at Lane County. There's plenty of methane to go around. And to be really clear, when we have executive sessions, that is not backroom dealing or hiding things or lack of transparency. There is Oregon statute that governs certain topics that can be discussed in executive session, but programmatic and major policy decisions and direction all happens in public. I stand by that, and I support not only this board, that we maintain the integrity of conducting our business the way we are legally required and authorized to, but also our staff, that our staff has integrity around this project and that they're not trying to subvert the proper process and procedures. It's just a very large and complex project and requires a lot of work, and I just don't want to infuse the complexity. I don't want to conflate complexity with any kind of lack of integrity. So that's what I will say on that topic, and we'll just conclude by always appreciating and echoing Commissioner Farr pointing out the farmers market is such an important and wonderful part of our community, and a great partnership between the city and the county to bring local farmers to downtown. So thank you for that, everyone. Moving on to item 7, which is our consent calendar. It's a lengthy one today, and for members of the public, all items on the consent calendar are considered routine. And all the materials that we review before approving this are also available to members of the public online on the agenda by clicking View Material next to each item. And so with that, I will look for a motion to approve today's consent calendar.
Yes, Chair, I move to approve the consent calendar for June 25th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Seneca. All items on the consent calendar are voted on in a single motion without discussion, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Did I hear an aye from you, Commissioner Fry?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0, approval of the consent calendar for Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. And that moves us into County Administration, item 8. Are there any announcements from County Administration this morning?
Chair Trigger, Commissioners, no announcements this morning.
Thank you. Then we have Tiffany Brown, our emergency manager, and it looks like she is teeing up a presentation. And this will be a discussion, and there is an order after the discussion and presentation. Should there be a motion to adopt to approve the 2024 updated Lane County Emergency Operations Plan? So welcome, Ms. Brown. I'll give you a moment to finish getting there it is, the presentation queued up. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Trigger, Commissioners. I'm pleased to be before you this morning to discuss and seek approval on the update of our County Emergency Operations Plan. We update this plan on a regular basis. This is a 5-year promulgation that we ask for. And the last one was actually 6 years ago. If there are any questions in terms of the last, we've had some changes in staffing and some events in the last year that justified pushing it out another year. We're going to talk about the plan as a whole today and our work ahead in 24. This is just an overview. We're going to talk about the role and importance of the plan, some components, how it breaks down, how this translates into planning and operations, how it fulfills our mission of operational readiness, and then our plans after this update moving forward and how we plan to improve in 24 and 25. So this is straight out of FEMA guidance. What is the role and importance of a county EOP? Really, it talks about who does what. It's a policy and procedure document. It talks about how we protect property and people and identifies how we operate, who the primary agencies are, the supporting agencies. And the term, I think, sometimes it affects people as misleading. It is not a terribly operational document. It talks about our roles and responsibilities and points us in the direction of a different part of the plan that gets more into the weeds about how we do what during an emergency. It's high level, and that's by design. And it is high level so that it can be flexible and scalable and used in all emergencies. So today we're here to approve the basic plan. It is one piece of the County Emergency Operations Plan. It is the only piece of the county EOP that is public facing. The other components have more operational and more specific information about people and places and property that we refer to as FOUO, for information for official use only. And so today we're here to talk about the base plan. And we'll talk later about the other components. The base plan elements, if you saw from the packet, really just goes through a few simple outlines, situation and assumptions, what we assume about our county and our environment, and the ground truth document that drives where we go and what we plan for moving forward. The roles and responsibilities, again, who does what? The county, yes, but also the state and federal partners, our local partners, and really identifies everyone that's part of the puzzle. A concept of operations. I'll point out to you that this plan really has mostly to do with the County Emergency Operations Center. Yes, it talks about firefighting and law enforcement and a lot of the more tactical operations that occur in the county, but it really is a high-level document that helps us as the County Emergency Operations Center support those more operational partners. So our concept of operations at the EOC level is incident and EOC activation levels, how we alert and warn the public and communicate with our other partners. Volunteer and donations management's another example of something considerable that we handle during an event. And then also command and control, and I see that I made a mistake here on this, but that is how we run the incident command system. You know, you may or may not be aware that once we activate the EOC, the roles and responsibilities that people have during day-to-day may change, and the roles and responsibilities are assigned very specifically to the Emergency Operations Center. This plan outlines how those roles and responsibilities change from when we're having a blue sky day and when an incident occurs and we've activated. So lest you think we're making it up as we go along, there are a number of plan requirements handed down by FEMA and the Oregon Office of Emergency Management. Maintaining this plan is very specifically tied to our Emergency Management Performance Grant, and they outline things that we must do every year to keep in compliance, and really they're just best practices. We update annually. We update on a regular basis. It is only every 5 years that we come to you and ask for you to sign the resolution in order to promulgate. And then we have the basic plan that we're updating today, and then it's up to us to maintain the emergency support function annexes of the plan. And CBG 101 is just the seminal guidance that FEMA issues and updates on a regular basis that tells us how to update and manage this plan. So beyond the basic plan, beyond what you found in your packet today, we have 18 sections behind that basic plan that are called the emergency support functions. I didn't list them here because it would take up a lot of room, but they're your basic functions in an emergency that you would think of: transportation, communications, firefighting, volunteer and donations. And so for each of these areas, we have an annex that again starts, may sound a lot like the first part of the plan. We talk about the roles and responsibilities, the concept of operations, who does what, but also the interrelationship between those support functions. For example, how does firefighting relate to mass care in an evacuation environment? Also, just the considerations for that specific operational environment and any supporting documentation. So, for example, if we have a section on firefighting, we might cite the Community Wildfire Protection Plan or other agencies and documents that support that work. And then finally, we have something called operational annexes in our EOP, and these really are related to operations of the Emergency Operations Center. They have to do with how we spin up, how we activate, how we staff, how we delegate authority, how we come to you, and those are in the back part of the plan as well. So, how does this all translate into us operating as a county during an emergency, operating efficiently and effectively? We start with the EOP, the high-level basic plan. We drill down into the annexes that get into more specific areas of emergencies. And then from those, we draw information to develop training programs and positions and job aids within the Emergency Operations Center to address those emergency support functions. They don't all get activated every time, but for example, ESF 6 is mass care. If we have an evacuation situation, we will activate that desk and someone's there to manage that part of the emergency. Next, we train and exercise. And then we just perform routine maintenance of these parts of the plan that tie directly to our emergency operations. So, we're approving the plan today. If you were here for the 21 update, you'll see that or the 18 update, there weren't tremendous changes. They had really galvanized some of the language and operations cited in the basic plan. So our plan moving forward is to look at those annexes and where we need help. This, in a small way, is a little bit of an extension of the after action for the ice storm debrief, because it is some of those items that really translated into where we put our efforts for 24-25. If you think about a 5-year update, it puts us on a cycle of kind of looking at those ESFs every year. So these are the priorities for the upcoming year based on what I learned during the after action and what we heard from our partners. The first will be with the EOC activation, notifications and thresholds, how we decide to activate, what level we activate at, and how we let people know that we have done so. ESF 2 is communications. This is a big chapter. It includes a lot of different things, but for now we're going to focus on increasing use of lane alerts, both internally, meaning for our agencies and our county staff and departments, but also externally with the public. We'll be establishing training and education, a governance and use model for using the system, and kicking off a public marketing campaign for that public-facing piece. Mass care is a piece, as you know, that we really uncovered the complexities of during the ice storm. Moving forward, we're going to start by developing an assessment of our mass care environment, what it is, what we're talking about, who we're talking about when we're talking about providing food, warmth, shelter, and basic medical to the community under what circumstances. And from that, start to perhaps operationalize that assessment in terms of understanding who does what and what happens differently when we are managing mass care in a heat situation or a smoke situation and the EOC is not necessarily activated, and then how we transition smoothly into that full activation. Finally, this is about the EOC training programs, a desk to serve as liaison for our utility partners and volunteer and donations management. We have partners that are eager and ready to come and help in this work and support us at the County Emergency Operations Center. We'll be working with them to develop those training materials and then turn around and roll out training and exercise opportunities to come back. Really, the trick in all of this is practice, 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 and we'll be setting up a regular training schedule in order to meet those needs. With that, it concludes the presentation part of my slide deck. I'd end by saying that we have some tangible markers in terms of our plans for the update going down the list. This week, we're issuing a survey to all of our cooperators, asking them how they would like to be notified during an activation. Currently, we send an email to everyone, but we learned during the ice storm, during a 3-day weekend, during an event where we needed to get a hold of people who aren't used to checking their email on a phone 24 hours 7, that getting a text or a phone call might be more effective. What are the thresholds when we activate? We have them listed in the basic plan, but what do they mean? What do they mean in terms of where we're sitting, how we're communicating, and could we call on that first level of activation, which is monitoring, and lean into activations in a more ready way. We're working on the lane alerts pieces. As I said, we've got a marketing effort that you should be seeing in the next couple of weeks. And we just were invited back for a second application for funding to develop a mass care assessment for the county. We had a wildfire tabletop last week, and our utility partners were present and expressed an eagerness to come and talk about being a liaison in the Emergency Operations Center, to have a subject matter expert sitting at that utilities desk to be able to talk to their own partners, and then be the utilities whisperer within the County Emergency Operations Center. Okay, with that, I've concluded my presentation. Be happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you so much to the board. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I'll kick this off. You're now the EOC whisperer, so that was a great comment. Tiffany, welcome to the county. We're so happy and so proud that you're with us. You're a consummate professional, and obviously, like in the baseball realm, we see a curveball. You're only going to be able to hit a curveball if you recognize the spin. And so you're everything that we're doing, you're recognizing different spins, and you're helping us hit better on our batting percentages of emergency awareness. So thank you. It's a day of quotes. I love what you said when you said there's no harm in hoping for the best as long as you're prepared for the worst. And then I love the one you just had up there that said you fight like you train. So I'm glad we've got fighters like you training like we're training, and I look forward to adopting this in whole heart support and enthusiasm.
Thank you so much.
Can you take your presentation down? Just it makes it easier to see our virtual participants, and I'll call on Commissioner Buck next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate the update. I know it takes some work to put these things together, and I know you and your staff spent some time doing it. I have to say, the part that I appreciate the most, it's all great, but the part that I appreciate the most is the update to the communications. And there's been a lot of activations since the last plan, and a change in our alert methods has been quite a transition. And the one thing that I know for sure during activations of disasters is that people can't get enough information at the time. They soak it in, and trying to reach people with varying degrees of communication methods, what's allowed to get through if utilities are off or internet is down, and trying to reach everybody is always a challenge. And we know that we have to reach people in whatever way we can. And seeing the transition to lane alerts has been really good. But clearly we want to do as much as we possibly can in those times of need. So thank you for that. And I look forward to seeing how that rolls out in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Senega.
Thanks, Chair. I also wrote down you fight like you train. Yeah, it's just a perfect quote for really what this is. As someone that is, trained in ICS 800, that's great. You know what you should do. Now the pressure's on, we've got to do it. So actually going through these motions, and the more times we do it, the more natural it's going to get, eliminate some of that fight or flight that is it's inevitable. I mean, we're all going to feel it. The other thing I really liked was the roles that everybody has between the cities and counties and utilities, and because that gets really blurred when everybody just wants to fix things, but you need to know where your lane is. These are just great things that we think would come natural, and they kind of do until it happens, right? And just one thing I noticed being in the EOC in some things that I think we could do to help, say, in this last event, the ICE event, our utilities is like when we're getting our updates from all the different utilities, if they had just this is what we would like to hear, so everybody's on the same page, because in their mind, different things are important, but really this is what we would like to hear from you, because all the reports are different, so you're kind of trying to decipher the information as they're going along. And I think it would help them with their reports, because now they know this is what we want. Boom, 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 boom. And I think that could help simplify that stuff too. But thank you. Great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation. I have two quotes that I wrote down. One of them is already mentioned, but the one that I wrote down is, it's not a terribly operational document, it's high level. And it really does point to the areas where we are specific and strategic about how we respond to emergencies. And one of the really, really, truly great things, as my observation of the operations center and my observation both of preparation and recovery, is how we are able to rely on our adjacent and overlapping partners to step in and help. And we help them when their turn is, when they have an emergency that we're not experiencing. Now, when there's a broad emergency, sometimes we're more on our own. And that's when we really fight like we train. That is really when if you train with fervor, then when it's time to use the skills that you're training on, you use them with fervor also. That quote actually was from George Falvey, not from George S. Patton. Patton was an armor leader. George Falvey was my college soccer coach, and he said, "You fight like you train." And it's amazing how things do transfer. It's whether it be in the military or whether it be in sports, or whether it be in real life on the ground right here in Lane County, if we prepare with fervor, then we are going to respond with fervor. And I think that you are leading a tremendous effort. I think historically, back in 2013, we began working on an emergency plan. We didn't have one at the time. And the lead at the time was Steve Dingle, who was county council. That's how close to ground zero we were. I mean, we didn't have any emergency response system. The first thing that we did back then was we made sure that that all county commissioners were in contact during an emergency. It was that basic, the plan that we had at the time. And look at what we have today. We really are respondent. We've had an opportunity to practice. Don't like practicing, but practice does make you better at the things that you do. And doing them with fervor once again, and doing them in cooperation and coordination with adjacent jurisdictions. And you know, talking to Sheriff Harold, the work that's done by the Sheriff's Department during the emergency could not be done without the help from the City of Eugene, for instance, City of Springfield, for instance. And I look at the chart that you gave to us, the 18 points that you didn't want to go into details. The chart on page 6 of the report does go into great detail of whose responsibility it is. And I see that it's spread out across a broad group of agencies, but everybody overlaps. And it's a pretty amazing document that you've put together right there, because it helps me to understand search and rescue, of course, is the Sheriff's Department, but in case of an emergency, emergency management switches to the Emergency Operations Center, as you said. So you think that the sheriff is being a part of that. Well, the sheriff's in support. Everybody's in support with the leads performing their job that they've trained to perform. And this is wonderful to see Lane County has progressed to this point. We've had practice, and we hope we don't have. Well, we won't even talk about the things that may happen. But the ice storm, for instance, was countywide. Unlike Snowmageddon, which was only one part of the county, unlike the wildfire, which was only one part of the county, the ice storm was county-wide and region-wide, but it only lasted about this long. You know, what would have happened if the ice storm had lasted for 2 weeks? Well, we don't know, but we know we have practice in the meantime. And that's brilliant work that you are doing, Ms. Brown, and thank you for bringing your professionalism, your expertise, and your adding to our emergency preparedness. I will mention one last thing. Oregon Association of Oregon Counties, in conjunction with Oregon Health Authority and Oregon DHS, has a local government advisory committee that we help we help those agencies to help us to prepare at the county level. And this coming Friday, we have a check-in with the ODHS Emergency Management. Ed Flick will be there with us for about an hour, talking about preparation for the upcoming potential wildfire season, and resilience hubs and grants updates, and the Tillamook exercise prep for Cascadia. Little old Tillamook County is teaching us all how to do things. So looking forward to that on Friday. If you can tune in, it'll be broadcast live, but that'll be a good presentation by Ed Fleck on Friday. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate the presentation. Really glad you chose Lane County. It's great to see the work build from past folks in your position to what you're doing, and to build on as learning as we go. As my colleagues have mentioned, whether we want to or not, we're learning how to respond to all different kinds of emergencies. I love the whole community planning, just as a phrase, and I know we really rely on the ground community partners as well as our jurisdictional partners, and obviously our internal resources. I have a question about, I don't see anything in here about how we determine when or whether to deploy resources or supports to neighboring counties that might be an experience in emergency that's not impacting us. Is that generally, is that something that you have plans or criteria or triggers for that's just separate because this is just for emergencies impacting Lane County?
Yes, we have 2 vehicles for inter-county support, the ORCA and the Omnibus Agreement, and that happens through the County Emergency Management Office, and it can range from anything from public works to public health needs to emergency management staff.
Great, thank you. And then the only other piece, and I can see why it's not part of this, as you said, this is really a, an operations plan. It's sort of your work plan, it's your guide when we have to activate. And so this is maybe as much to our administrator and our policy director in the back of the room, Steve Adams, is to think about when and what is the role of the Board of County Commissioners when there is an emergency, when we activate the EOC and a declaration. And because we're talking a lot about communications, and particularly Commissioner Buck is right, the communications out to the general public is really important. And blessing and a curse of social media is that information can spread quickly, but sometimes that's not always the correct information or the best information. But internally to us as the policy board for the organization, it would probably be helpful at some point to put something together that's, what is our role as the board? What are the opportunities for us to support? And quite frankly, what are the opportunities where we can learn what's happening but not get in the way? So the EOC is a great example. I think each of us has had opportunity at varying points to tour the EOC and see it in action. I think that's really important. It gives us a great deal of insight into what all it takes to respond, confidence in our staff and our partners and how they're responding. But there comes a point where then we need to tap out and let you all do your work. And so I think we often want to be there longer or more embedded there because we want to be helpful. So understanding best what is actually helpful to staff and partners and how the board can be responding. And I will just say from my experience, having been through a few wildfires and now ice storm and the heat dome and a few other things, that is actually a really important opportunity for us to be part of that communications channel out to the community of getting right and good and accurate information out and being out in community on the ground with our constituents, supporting them. But I'm not sure where that would live or how it would be developed, but I'm sort of asking you, administration and our policy director, to think about what you might be able to bring to us as a training or a support guide or document for what the board's role is specifically when we have to activate.
Great. I have some ideas about all those things. I'll follow up. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else from the board? Then we do have a motion before us. Vice Chair.
Chair, I'd love to make that. I move to adopt the 2024 update to the Lane County Emergency Operations Plan. Adoption will be formalized by all members of Lane County Board of Commissioners signing the letter of promulgation in the 2024 Emergency Operations Plan.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Senega to approve Order 24062514. All those in any discussion of the motion? All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Approval of Order 24-06-25-14 in the matter of adopting the 2024 update to Lane County's Emergency Operations Plan. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
After all that, moving things around and time certains and public comment, here we are. It's only 11 o'clock, but we do not have need of executive session this morning. And so unless there's anything from administration, from the board, any other business, well then, we get a little extra time to prepare for our afternoon. So at the sound of my gavel, we will be recessed until 1:30, at which time we will be back here in Harris Hall. Thank you.